In 1989, the Soviet Union looked unbreakable. 2 years later, it didn't exist. In 2001, Argentina was recovering. By 2002, its banks were frozen and its currency had lost 3/4 of its value. These weren't sudden disasters. The warning signs were visible for years, but almost no one took them seriously. Today, we're not talking about predictions or conspiracy theories. We're examining 5 economic patterns that have appeared before every major national collapse in modern history. Not opinions. Patterns repeated from the Roman Empire to Venezuela. And here's the unsettling part. Most people living through these signs don't recognize them until they're standing in front of empty ATMs. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. And you may realize some of these patterns are already visible around you. Welcome to Histonomix, where history meets money. Imagine your country's economy is a 4-legged table. Now imagine removing 3 of those legs. That's economic monoculture dependence on one dominant source of income, and it's one of history's oldest traps. Between the 1500s and 1800s, Spain imported enormous amounts of silver from the Americas, wealth so vast it should have secured permanent dominance. Instead, Spain declared bankruptcy 6 times. Why? Because silver replaced everything else. Manufacturing collapsed, agriculture shrank. Innovation slowed, Spain stopped producing and became a middleman, importing finished goods using silver that would eventually run out. When silver declined, there was nothing underneath. Fast forward to Venezuela. By the 1970s, oil made up nearly all export revenue. While oil prices were high, it felt like prosperity. When prices collapsed, the economy collapsed with them. Agriculture had withered. Manufacturing had disappeared. A resource-rich nation began importing food it once grew itself. Many economies today still balance on a single pillar. And here's the danger. Monocultures feel safe while they're working. The money is easy. The warning signs stay invisible, until suddenly they're not. Ask yourself this. If one industry disappeared tomorrow, what happens to everything else? Markets aren't perfect, but there's something worse than imperfect markets, governments that destroy the incentives that make production possible. In the early 2000s, Zimbabwe fixed the price of bread below production cost. The result wasn't cheaper bread. It was no bread at all. Bakers stopped producing because producing guaranteed losses. This same pattern spread to fuel, electricity, housing, and eventually the currency itself. In Venezuela, hundreds of private companies were nationalized under the promise of fairness. The outcome wasn't shared prosperity. It was collapsed production. When success is punished and failure is subsidized, production stops. Investment flees, scarcity replaces abundance. Even during the Great Depression, protectionist policies triggered global retaliation and collapsed international trade. Good intentions don't override economic reality. Watch for governments that treat profit as immoral instead of informational. Because you can't legislate prosperity. You can only allow or prevent it. Debt itself isn't fatal. The problem is debt with no realistic path to repayment. By the late 1800s, the Ottoman Empire spent half its entire budget just paying interest. Not building, not defending, just surviving yesterday's promises. They tried defaulting. They tried taxing more. They tried printing money. The empire survived on paper but was economically dead long before its final collapse. Japan offers an important clarification. Japan hasn't collapsed. Its debt is massive, but it's domestic, low interest, and currency controlled. This isn't collapse. It's entrapment. Japan can't raise rates without bankrupting itself. It's stable, but locked in place. Most countries don't have Japan's conditions. The pattern is always the same. Borrow to grow sustainable. Borrow to consume warning. Borrow to service old debt critical. Once confidence breaks, interest rates spike. At that point, repayment becomes mathematically impossible. That's not politics. That's arithmetic. Bad economics can be survived. Broken institutions cannot. Institutions are what make the future predictable. Courts, property rights, contract enforcement, equal application of law. When these weaken, something subtle happens. People stop planning for tomorrow. In 1990s Russia, privatization without institutions became legalized theft. Contracts were enforced by force. Savings evaporated. Investment died. The rational response was simple. Consume now. Hoard foreign currency. Move capital abroad. Argentina shows a different version of the same problem. Constant policy reversals destroyed predictability. Even good policies fail when no one trusts they'll last. Once corruption becomes systemic, honesty becomes irrational. Talent leaves. Capital follows. When skilled people start leaving in large numbers, the system is already signaling distress. Money works only because people trust it. When that trust breaks, societies fracture. In Weimar, Germany, money lost value so fast it was burned for heat. Savings vanished. The middle class collapsed. Social stability followed. Zimbabwe repeated the same pattern decades later. Deflation is quieter, but just as destructive. During the Great Depression, falling prices made debts heavier over time, triggering mass defaults. Different paths, same signal. Monetary control has failed. Watch for persistent inflation, direct money printing, currency abandonment, or deflation, combined with rising debt. Once trust in money breaks, rebuilding it can take decades. These 5 patterns aren't prophecies. They're diagnostics. Overconcentration, broken incentives, unsustainable debt, institutional decay, monetary dysfunction. No nation collapses from just one. But when several appear together, history starts to rhyme. Collapse doesn't feel like collapse. It feels like normal life getting harder. Understanding these patterns isn't about panic. It's about awareness. Diversify skills. Watch institutions, not headlines. Remember that policy matters more than resources. Because the countries that survive aren't the richest. They're the most resilient. If this way of thinking resonates with you, subscribe to Histonomix, where history meets money and patterns matter more than noise. And tell me in the comments, which of these signs do you see most clearly today? The only real question is, are we paying attention?